today I have with me Marsha Bishop, who is the Executive Director of Life After Meth Incorporated. So, let's begin with, how did you come to be in Knox County? Have you always lived here?
No, I was born and raised in Southeast Illinois, El Dorado, Saline County, where Garden of the Gods is just to the south there. My husband was in X-ray school in Olney, and when we got married, we moved to Olney, and then we were there for 30 years. And some things happened with his employment. Some personal things happened with our family, and we wound up in Georgia for a little over a year. And we also, at the same time, had 3 grandbabies still over in Olney. So, and they were small, like newborn 3 and 6. So we decided that we couldn't live in Georgia and see them. So Randy found a job here, and we found a house that we could live in. And I was in seminary at the time. It needed to be able to be rented and a place for my books. So we found this place, and so we lived there for now almost 13 years. Or it is 13 years because it's August.
Oh, wow. So your family's in Illinois, but you're here.
Mm-hmm. We have 2 of our daughters live here too.
Oh, okay.
So we have family here too.
So 13 years of living here, what do you like about living in Knox County?
I love Knox County because, first of all, it's on Eastern time zone. As only God could ordain, He gives me really cool people to meet. You're one of them. Your daughter, all of the things, But it's a small town, but it's big enough where you're not seeing the same people all the time. I love the fact that we have a river. I love the history and the historical buildings and the old houses. I love to take walks here. I think it's nice. There's just a lot of really good people that live here.
Is there anything you don't like that you would change if you could?
Probably, but I can't really off the top of my head think what that would be. I just...
Okay, you mentioned seminary. So that was later.
Yes.
Did you do anything between having your kids and going to seminary?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Okay. I could tell you all about it if you want. Okay, so Randy and I, he always wanted a lot of kids. I always thought I was a business-minded person. I had an accounting degree, and I wanted to, have a briefcase and a pointer stick. It was the 80s. And we had 2 daughters. And as they grew up, we did okay financially, I could say it like that. And I started seeing traits in them that I didn't like. They were very selfish and self-centered. And I thought, maybe we should put another kid in the mix.
That fixes everything, right?
Another baby, and he was like, not especially. Okay, how about if we look to adopt? Okay, we'll adopt a 3-year-old potty trained child. Well, if you know anything about that system where you would maybe get a child like that, they're never potty trained, probably at three. But what happened was we went through DCFS in Illinois, and we thought, oh, we'll just get this 3-year-old, so 3 to 7, because our youngest was about 8. And so we didn't get any calls, no placements for us for 2 years. Okay. Then a couple weeks after Christmas in 1996, I get this call, Mrs. Bishop, we have these twins that were born on Saturday. They have no place to go. They're the 7th and 8th children of their parents. And would you be interested in taking them? They're 4 days old. I'll be up tomorrow. So I go to the hospital and pick them up, and they're our babies, and now they're almost 30.
Wow.
So they were a delight. They were so much fun and just very, very active. And so it was that our girls that were then 9 and 11 had these baby dolls, basically packing these babies around. It was a great time. So when they were about 3, almost 4, my husband decides we're going to go on the Big Red Boat. They used to have a cruise ship that was called the Big Red Boat. So we take everybody there. We get home and I cannot get off the couch. I mean, he thought something was really wrong with me, and the laundry is stacking up, and I'm scared. And he goes, "Why don't you just go?" Because he was a diagnostic imaging director, and so he just go to the hospital and they can do an ultrasound. Because that was back in the day, you could just do that, Oh no, you don't have anything wrong in here. You have a baby in there. So we were pregnant. which is still hysterical for me because I totally identify with Sarah in the Bible. But, so the year I turned 40, we had a newborn baby,
Oh my
and we
goodness.
celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. So, yeah, that's what happened there. Fast forward with the kids. I had lots of kids, but during those years, I clerked for an auctioneer. I kept books for different businesses, and I was actually a real estate broker at one time. So that was fun. I loved that. That's maybe why I love all the houses here. But anyway, um, so she grew and grew and grew, and I stayed home. Once we had her, I just thought, I'd opted to stay home anyway, but during those years with the twins and all that. And when she was 3, she was tragically killed in front of our home. And she died a few minutes later in the emergency room at the hospital where my husband worked. And so that's the big tragedy of our life. It was
I
horrific.
am so sorry.
I know. Everybody's sorry, and we're 20 years on this side of it. So I can say it with a smile on my face that God is very faithful in those times. Her life was amazing. And just before her accident in 2004, she and I had started. I say she and I because she slept right here her whole life. We were together all the time. She and I started a ministry to women that were disenfranchised in our church and our community, actually. But mostly I was focused on the women in our church that came by themselves or their husbands just didn't come. And so we started a Sunday school class and we started Bible studies and we were doing all this stuff. And I had a brunch bunch. That's what I called them. And they'd come to my house and we'd pray and what are we going to do for ministry? What are we going to do for ministry? And that was in 2003. And then when she left in 2004, it was very evident that the ministry was working. And so I was offered a part-time, not paid position at our church. And so I was their women's minister for years.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, actually that very spring, I went to a conference for women in ministry in Nashville, Tennessee. And at 7:00, the very first session, the first morning, the speaker said, "Before you leave Nashville, buy this book." And she said the name of it and the author. Okay. So that was on my very first day. It was a 3-day conference. And so on the way back from Nashville, I said, "Oh, I was supposed to buy this book before I left Nashville. Maybe we could stop in Evansville and find it." And we did. So I read the book that summer, and it changed my life. It was about women in ministry, and it was written by a woman with a PhD in theology, which was unheard of in our day. She's about our age, okay? So that was just not what we do. Theology. In fact, when she was trying to get into her seminary to get her theological PhD, there were men on the governing board that were going to resign if they took her in. Nobody resigned. It was fine. So anyway, that happened. Fast forward another 5 years, and she becomes the dean of the theological seminary that I attended, and that I wound up attending. She called one day and she said, "You need to be in seminary."
Okay.
Okay. So I applied and went there. So it was a hybrid where you study a whole bunch, you spend a couple of weeks on campus, and then you come home and you write a bunch. So yeah, that's how we got to Vincennes, and that's how I got to seminary.
Would you describe yourself as ambitious?
Yes. But not in the way the world thinks of ambitious. I don't have any ambition to be rich. I want to pay my bills. I need the money to live. That's the truth of the matter. But my ambition is more about what kind of legacy am I leaving with my children and grandchildren. And I'm not always focused on that because sometimes I get really tired because I work a lot. So sometimes mean things come out of my mouth. And that's not really uplifting and nice, but I try. I do try.
Do you feel like women from our generation have that deep leaving a legacy feeling coming up more and more as we age?
I do believe that because I think that we are very fortunate in that we stand on the shoulders of many women who started the National Organization of Women in the 70s. I mean, women couldn't even hold credit cards. They couldn't even have a loan in their own name until 1974, if you think about that. They couldn't hold property in their own name. That's crazy town. If you think about it, that's not been that long ago. Okay. So, and for somebody that's been born in this century, that's like foreign concepts. Women do everything now.
Right.
And that's awesome. I love that. But at the same time, we got to remember where we came from a little bit. And especially in our generation, I was always taught as a small child, you're to be seen and not heard. I wore white gloves, went to church and sat there like this. That's what they tell me. I don't remember it, but
we're going to go from you to Lamb.
Okay.
I'd like to know how did you find them, or how did they find you?
No, I found them.
Did you?
Actually, it's a comedy of events.
Oh, really?
Not really. I was already kind of working with people that were struggling with substance use disorders when I was in Olney. Disenfranchised people have all kinds of reasons. Domestic violence was a big deal, all of the things. And so when we moved here, Randy, we were looking for a church, and we found a church, and it just so happened that the senior pastor of that church was the president of the land board, and he invited me to go with him one day to the jail ministry that is Lamb, and teach the Bible study. Not that I was teaching it; he was teaching it, but I could observe. And I had a whole bunch of things that he was helping me do in seminary anyway, and that was one of them. So the very first words out of one of the inmates' mouths to him was completely raw, honest. And I thought, I've never seen that kind of authenticity in the church, let alone in a jail place. What is this? And it just instilled in me this love for this ministry, because I think they're doing really amazing things here, changing people's lives, planting seeds, if nothing else. And it just fueled the fire in my belly to help people, because I love transformation. I love to see, like old cars restored or a piece of furniture changed into something else. When people's lives can be renovated and their hearts can be different, that's transformation, and I love that. So it just kind of all fit. And so I volunteered from 2012 until 2018, when I became the director after Peter had resigned.
Can you give an overview of your responsibilities as the director?
As a director, they've changed a little. Okay. Whenever I first came on, it was just me and Tanya. That was it. And we did everything. And we just worked. That's what we did. We had people that would help us sometimes, but it was just, we didn't have that many people. We had like maybe seven of each, men and women in the jail. I did the men, she did the women. And then we had the houses that each had maybe 7 to 10 people in them. And so it's not like it is today. The whole thing with recovery has changed in this community, and I'm very proud of this community for that reason as well. Sure. Because they've latched on, and drug court's been developed, and family health center has their things, and there's a family recovery court. All of those things that helps to bring healing. So my responsibilities were to just keep everything moving, and I was supposed to be probably a fundraiser. I'm not a good fundraiser. I've worked too long, and I don't, I'm not really good at it. All I can say is God's going to provide, and He always has. And people are generous; they love what we do. And sometimes we just get random checks or PayPal or Venmo. So I suppose one of my major things is to be a fundraiser. But I'm old, and I'm not sure I have that goal anymore. I just want God to just show up.
Sure.
So responsibilities, keeping track of people, instilling how much they're loved.
The mission statement for Lamb it starts out to help incarcerated addicts recover and re-enter the community. Can you give me a specific example of what you see when that's successful?
I see a young man who every place he went was anger. He would just beat people up and keep on walking. Very, very lost, very, very lost in his addiction, lost in his anger, always had been hurt. And in our jail program, he met Jesus and started treating people different, became a leader in our jail program, moved out to our house, became a house manager quickly. He now has a newborn baby and a wife and a house. They have an apartment, but it's 3 bedrooms, so it's a nice size place. And he's advanced in his career to where he's being looked at as upper management. That's a success. I can think of a woman who never had hope in her entire life. She didn't even want to come to the interview to get into the program. And when she did, she remained silent for a very long time. And then one day she grieved. She found whatever lessons we were going through, she laid on her bunk for 3 days and grieved all the losses in her life, because there's over 40 different kinds of losses we suffer as humans, and we don't have time for that as a culture. We don't want to hear about your pain. We just give you a pill. Right. So she laid there and grieved it for 3 days, and now she's a peer and she helps other people that are in addiction come out of it. And she works really hard just to keep people going. And she ministers to people that are still in addiction as well as those that are trying to recover. And I don't mean she goes and does what they do and people in addiction, but if she knows there's somebody out there and they're hungry, she'll take them a meal. She just does stuff like that. The old her would never have done that. The old her tried to commit suicide many times. Okay. So to me, that's a success.
Sure.
We have lots of those stories, lots of them.
Listening to you, and it's almost like I can feel the hope
Absolutely.
in the room.
I hope it just fills it up.
Yes. But how do you deal with the people who don't see and feel your hope? The emotional impact on the people around these addicts who are struggling with seeing what you see as a potential.
I want you to rephrase the question. Are you asking as a family member with no hope, or are you asking as just someone random in the community with no hope for them?
So is there a difference?
There can be.
As a community member.
Okay.
If you are looking from the outside into your program, and how do you share the hope that you feel with them so that they also feel that hope?
Well, I'm not sure I could ever change anybody's mind, okay? But there's been a lot of work done in this community to remove stigma from addiction, okay? And so that is one of the things that we have to overcome as a community. And I think that the sheriff sits on our board, the mayor attends our banquets, the prosecutors in the room when they're sharing at the banquet. Those are people that are judges, honestly. That's the pulse of our community. But our actual judges come to the banquet as well. So these are leaders in our community. Other people, professionals come to our banquet as well. They hear the hope stories. It's not just me talking about it. They see the transformation in people. There's been a lot of businesses that have taken risks on our people, and our people have advanced. I mean, they have a background with us, but they've taken the reins of their own lives and gotten more education or gotten more training or whatever it is that their companies have offered them and advanced. That's exciting to me.
That's awesome.
I don't have to say a word for that to happen, except, yes, they do live in our house, and yes, they will be there and sober and safe place to live as long as they want to be, So I can't change people's minds. There are people in this community, I fear, that probably suffer addiction of their own. And so that increases the ability to be a stigmatizing kind of person because they feel judged already or they wouldn't be lost in that.
Right.
Does that make sense? So my hope is that I would just be shining enough light in the darkness, because the darkness isn't dark. It's not evil. It's just the lack of light. Okay. So if I can be a light, or you can be a light, we can light up this whole place. Do you see?
Right.
Where there's light, there's no more shame. We don't need to harbor it.
Gotcha.
As a family member, can I talk about that for a second?
Sure.
I have family members that call me all the time. My son, my uncle, my nephew, my wife need this program. It's got to be their decision.
Right.
And I usually, try to give them some hope that they can come and succeed if they're of a mind to do that. Okay. Sometimes people that we encounter in incarceration, they have used drugs so long that their mind no longer is able to put it together. That's unfortunate. I can't fix that. That would be treatment later.
Right.
We're not treatment. We're therapeutic, but we're not therapy. So family members, I usually just pray with them and ask for God to just show them what to do.
Do you have a mentor or someone that you've looked up to through the years that's like from your younger days that you still think about?
Probably. There's several, actually. I have my grandma, my mom, prayer warrior. My grandma, Annabelle, she just loved people. And she wasn't educated, but she was back in the day in Texas when it was big hair and big shoulder pads. She was she did alterations in a really nice dress shop. So she had the pulse of the city at her hands in Odessa. And so she was talking to all these women. Just always encouraging, always loved, always encouraging. So I want to be that person,
That was going to be my next question. How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be Annabelle. I want to be Annabelle-like. Okay. Last night I talked to a group of women, and I'm going to just tell you this. You can cut it out if you need to, but these two, because I think it's hysterical. I have white hair for a reason. I can't afford hair color. Okay. I can't keep up. So these two girls came up to me when it was over, because I try to be funny, because I think we learn when we're there's some humor involved. And so I just preached and we'd had communion and all this stuff. And they came up, they're like, we love you, and one of them goes, if Betty White was a preacher, I would think of you as Betty White. And I'm like, I'm not sure that's a compliment. But it was just funny.
I'm sure she meant it that way.
Because I think of myself much younger than I may appear, but I know how old I am, so it's okay.
So I scoped out your blog page.
Yeah.
And under your interests, it says you like to travel.
We do.
I'm very much a fan of travels, but I want to know, what's your favorite destination you've been to?
Oh, gosh. For different reasons, I have several. I loved going to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. My great-grandparents spent their 50th wedding anniversary out there, so we went to Cape Hatteras, and they had moved the lighthouse from when they saw it to when we saw it just a couple of years ago. So that was actually really cool. I loved going to St. Thomas because that was my 10th or 15th, I think it was my 15th wedding anniversary, and I didn't know we were going until we got to New Jersey and getting ready to go on the plane. Just knew we were going to the
big surprise.
Yeah, and then this year, my cousins are what do you call it? Dual citizenship. He married a woman from Ireland, and so they have a home there, and she has family homes there. And so we were able to go and spend almost 2 weeks there, just staying in their homes, but seeing the country. And it was just beautiful. And I wouldn't move there, but it's gorgeous. And we saw things that, we might not have if she wasn't like our firsthand guide. So those are my big ones.
Do you have a bucket list or a destination that you really want to go to, haven't been to yet?
My husband wants to go do the Pacific Coastal Highway. I would still like to get to Hawaii someday, maybe not. I don't know. I don't really think of myself as a bucket list kind of maker. I just feel like, I'm in the moment. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So
awesome.
I have to be satisfied with where I'm at.
And you also enjoy reading.
I do.
So do you have a book recommendation?
Oh, gosh. Funny you should ask. Yeah, I have a lot of books. Right now, I'm currently reading a woman, her name is Carolyn Weber, and she wrote a book called Surprised by Oxford. And I watched the movie at a friend's recommendation, and I loved the movie so much I went online and bought all of her books.
Oh, wow.
There's only 3, but they are, her goal was to just get her PhD. I want to have a doctorate. And so she went to Oxford and got her PhD.
Nice. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
All right, one more thing from the blog.
Okay.
You have a blog post titled, Will You Ponder These Questions?
Oh.
It's from July 31st of 2013.
Okay.
And the quote I'm going to give you is there a way to live a rich, full life without focusing on our own personal preferences and comfort level by putting the needs of others first? Is it possible to be selfless in our society? So that was 2013. Now here we are in 2025. Can you answer your own question?
That's a trick. Read it again. Can you read it again for me?
Sure. Is there a way to live a rich, full life without focusing on our own personal preferences and comfort level by putting the needs of others first? Is it possible to be selfless in our society?
Okay. I think the answer is still yes. I also think that our culture is prone to watch us say that we're selfless, and we're actually very, very selfish because we do it for others so that we'll get the credit or the things. So what I have tried to do, and I don't know if I'm tooting my own horn here. Do you see what I mean? My problem? Because in humility, you don't really talk about what you do to help others as much as
But please remember that there's an audience that needs to be inspired.
Okay.
Or that we're trying to inspire.
Okay. So the thing is, you have to come to a place where your own personal preferences don't matter. It's not self-deprecating to put others' needs before your own. What that means is you're so full of love that you want to see them succeed. And the litmus test for that is, if someone has succeeded in something that you intended to do in your life, can you cheer them on, or are you steeped in jealousy? Okay? A good example of that would be how amazing Lauren Alexander is right now. Okay? She has done that in her own right by the grace of God and God's leading. I love her. Okay.
So for the listeners who don't know who she is, you want to give a little.
She is a speaker. She's an evangelistic speaker. She has women's things all the time. She does all the things. Okay. And that's what her thing is, all the things.
And she's from Bicknell.
She's from Bicknell. And I love her so much. And I'm so very, very proud of her because she's living her best life. And I'm vicariously watching her, cheering her on because that's what I thought I would be doing. Do you see? So there's also another girl. I used to teach a woman, Nancy Lee DeMoss was her name. And she was all about women. And I've completely changed my view of that from hers. But anyway, a really young woman that we had in our youth group 100 years ago, 40, 30 years ago, 40 years ago now, holy moly. Anyway, she is actually sitting on a podcast with this author. And I'm like, you go, girl. Because, I never had a chance to meet those people. I never, I was in a prayer concert with Stormio Martin. Is that her name? Marsha Martin, the Power of Praying Woman, with those old books. She was actually conducting it in the room that I was in. It was beautiful and it was so meaningful for me. But that's as close as it got. You know what I mean? I have no ambition to meet and be around rubbing shoulders. But I'm so happy for the girls that are coming behind me that are in their 40 and just right in that, they're doing it. And it's so good.
It's very awesome to watch.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to wrap it up with this last question, unless you have anything that I haven't brought up that you want to. Okay. So if I gave you $1 million right now with the stipulation that you couldn't see the results of where you spent it, but it's for a project, what would you invest the $1 million in?
I'd put it in land.
Would you?
Because I'm not going to be here forever. And I feel like that would be the place where it would be, that it would just be there.
Would you put any stipulations on how it was spent, or just?
I would say that it needed to. Why would you ask me that? I would say it would need to be spent only for certain pieces of the ministry, but the bulk of it needs to be invested so that interest would come back to the company. That would be what I would do with it.
Very good.
Mostly because, what am I going to do with $1 million? It's not for me.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being with me.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate your insight and what you're doing. I think it's invaluable to the community, and I hope we inspire someone to volunteer or donate to the cause. And I will put links to everything that you give me in the description of the podcast.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.